Hello dear children, welcome to online classes. Today we are going to start the first chapter of Geography of class 8 and the name of the topic is resources. The complete chapter is focuses on the various type of resources. Children, first of all, let us know what is the meaning of resources and what is the meaning of utility. These resources and utility. Let us discuss these two things first of all. Anything that can be used to satisfy our need is a resource. If a thing comes in our need, that thing is called a resource. As example, suppose you feel thirsty. What will satisfy your thirsty? Definitely you will say water. So water will become a resource for you. Because water need by you and it can satisfy your need. Children, let us see another example. Suppose you are at home. You are feeling bored. You want to pass your time. So in such case, a television can satisfy your boring. You will watch different programs of television. Then you will overcome from boring. So here television become a resource. Again, to function the programs of television, electricity is required. So electricity is also become a resource for you. You need all these things for your different uses. So you must know that anything when it satisfies our any need, that thing is called resource. The water you drink, the electricity you use, the mobile phone you use, etc. They are all resources. Means it is coming in our uses. They all have a utility. Here this utility word. Let us see utility or usability. Utility means useful or profitable. Utility or usability is what makes an object or substance a resource. The car which drive by your parents, the van by which you come to school and after school you back home, the air which you breathe, the water which you drink, these all are resources. Here, all these things, they satisfy our need. They all have a utility. Now here we get a new term, utility. Let us know what is the meaning of utility. The word utility. We have to discuss about this word utility. Utility or usability is what makes an object or substance a resource. Utility means usability, that you can use. As example, there is a very old car which is broken. It cannot run on the road. On the other hand, there is another car which can run on the road. Its condition is good. In such case, you will say that the good conditions car have more utility. It is because of we can use it. Because we can use it, whereas the broken one we cannot use. The broken one do not have any utility because of its useless. Now children, let us learn about value of resource. Value of resource, let us discuss this point again. Resources have a value, and value means worth. That means the cost of anything or the importance of anything. Metals may have an economic value. You can purchase metals, you can sell them. Fruits have a nutritional value. It can keep us healthy. A beautiful landscape has a natural value. It does not have any economic value. Neither you can purchase it nor you can sell it. You cannot eat it. It does not have any nutritional value. Even though that natural landscape has a natural value, that is its beauty. It will attract you. So all things has its own value, and we all, the human being, we have our own needs, such as physical need, emotional need, mental need, psychological need. People themselves are most important resource. It is their ideas, knowledge and discoveries that lead to creation of more resources. With the help of human being, more resource can be created. As example, we can say about 300 or 400 years ago, there was no train, no car. People need to go by bullock cart or on foot from one place to another. At the time, there was no mobile phone. Suddenly, those things which are existed are created by human beings. So to make all these things, people need ideas, knowledge, etc. Thousands of people work together in 1,000 years. They progressed by helping each other. After that, it became possible to make a thing. That is why those people become a resource by themselves. Means they produce many things. Time and technology. Technology is the application of knowledge, and skill is doing or making new things. So when anybody utilizes his knowledge and skill to make a new thing, that is called technology. Time and technology are two important factors that can change substances into resources. There are two important factors here, or two parameters that can change any resource. Now children, next part in the chapter we get patent. Patent means the exclusive right over any idea or invention. It requires to take permission from the inventor before using them. Let us discuss about types of resources. Resources are basically classified into three types. They are natural resources, human-made resources, and human resources. Now first of all, let us know what is natural resources. Natural resources are those resources which we can get from nature. For example, the air which we breathe, water which we drink or use in our different work, the land where we live, the soil where we grow crops, vegetation, wildlife, etc. These all are natural resources. They are the gifts of the nature and we can use them directly. To make them fit for use, sometimes tools and technology may be needed. If anybody asks you, children, what are natural resources? You can answer it like natural resources are those resources which we get from nature and use without much modification. Much modification is not necessary here, means we can use it as we find it. Now let us see the next point or next type is human-made resources. Human-made resources, these are those resources which are made by man. Mankind made those resources. Those are not created by nature. You must be clear here. This one is created by mankind. For example, car, bike, scooter, buses, fan, schools, etc. All these are made by human beings. They are not created by nature. Must be clear for you. And difference between natural and human resources, I think you are clear here. Now, let us come to the third type, that is human resources. In this type of resources, human being himself or herself is a resource. As example, teacher. Teacher is called a resource person because teacher impart knowledge to the students. So the teacher becomes a resource here for a student. Doctor treat and cure sick people, so doctor become a resource person. Likewise, lawyer, pilot, engineer, etc. All these are called human resource. Whoever doing any work for the betterment of people, They are called resource person. Now, based here, let us see now. Next part of the chapter is types of natural resources. So far, we have discussed about types of resources. Here, let us see types of natural resources. The resources which are given to us by nature. It has been categorized in such a way. Let us see what are those. Based on development, natural resources are classified into different groups depending upon their level of development and use. Level of development and use. Origin, stock and distribution. These are the classification of natural resources based on development. On the basis of their development and use, resources can be again classified into two groups. They are actual resources and potential resources. Now, let us discuss about actual resources. Actual resources are those resources whose quantity is known. These resources are being used in the present days. The rich deposits of coal in Ruhr region of Germany and petroleum in the West Asia, the dark soils of the Deccan Plateau in Maharashtra are all actual resources. Now let us see the second one, that is potential resources. Potential resources are those resources whose entire quantity may not be known. The first one, actual one, was known, but the second one, that potential resources, entire quantity, it may not be known. This is the difference between these two. And these are not being used at present. These resources could be used in the future. The level of technology we have at present may not be advanced enough to easily utilize these resources. The uranium which are found in Ladakh is an example of potential resource. It could be used in future. High-speed winds were a potential resource about 200 years ago. Today they are actual resource, and wind farms generate energy by using windmills like in Netherlands. You will find some in Nagercoil of Tamil Nadu and on the Gujarat coast. Now again, these natural resource based on its origin, let us see. Based on its origin, resources can be abiotic or biotic. Children, let us first know here what is abiotic. Abiotic resources are non-living. They do not have any life. Why? Now, about biotic resources. Biotic resources are living. If anybody asks you, differentiate between abiotic and biotic resources, you have to say abiotic resources are non-living. On the other hand, biotic resources are living. Soils, rocks, minerals are abiotic, but plants and animals are biotic resources. Now, another division, that is natural resources based on distribution. This is another one. This based on distribution of natural resources, it has been categorized as localized resources, example copper, iron, and ubiquitous resources, example air, water. We can say some of the resources are present throughout the globe. For example, this air, water, these are present throughout the globe, means air, water, they are found everywhere. Life cannot possible without air, water. So it has created by God. Air, water is present everywhere for our survival. And the things which are present universally are known as ubiquitous resources. So, ubiquitous is one of the classification of resources based on distribution. All these resources are present globally. We can find them in each and every corner of the earth. On the other hand, we have localized resources. They are present in specific region. For example, you have copper resources, iron resources, and similar other mineral resources which are present in specific location. They are not found everywhere. In a specific places they are found. So we have either localized resources or ubiquitous resources based on the distribution. There is another important classification of natural resources based on its use. They are renewable resources and non-renewable resources. Renewable are those resources which can be renewed and reused one after the another. If they have finished, again it will replace and we can utilize it again. That is called renewable one. For example, sunlight, every day we are getting. Water, this is present everywhere. Wind also, like that. These are some of the renewable resources. Means every day we are getting this from nature. They are renewed every day. They can be used and can be replenished. However, there are other resources which have limited stock and get exhausted. So if once they are exhausted means finished, we cannot have them again. Common examples for non-renewable resources would be coal, oil reserves, iron ore deposits, etc. Renewable, you can understand very nicely here, and non-renewable, which cannot renew. Now based on this, we also have common term which is stock of resource. That is, therefore use, so whatever amount of resource we have for use is known as stock, and the distribution of resources throughout the world depends on various parameters like the terrain, climate, altitude, etc. Now, let us see the next part of the chapter. It is very important. A resource conservation, conservation of resource. Some renewable resources are there, some are non-renewable. Children, renewable resources also, we need to take care of it. It should not like that. Nature is giving us every day, so we should use it as we wish. It should not like that. I think you might know that save water, save life. Save water, save life. Free gift we are getting this water, but we have to save them. Potable water may not be available after a few decades, so we are required to conserve them. This is another important criteria. This resource conservation is another important criteria for understanding resources, how to conserve our resources, how to protect our resources. A common example would be, we can say, not to switch on a fan when no one is using it. Means if anybody is not using a fan or a light, we should off that fan or light so that we can conserve it, we can preserve it for afterward. That is a kind of effort to conserve resources. However, there are other ways where we can conserve resources. Nowadays, a focus shift towards a renewable energy. Now let us discuss about another important term, that is sustainable development. The word sustainable development means using the present resources in such a manner so that they are available for the future generation. Okay, the next generation who has to come for their uses, we need to preserve them. Let us take a very small example. Suppose you have a stock of 10 kg of uranium. You have to use that stock or resource in such a manner so that it is available after 50 years. Some of it is available after say 200 years also. That means you are using the resource in sustainable manner. So all the renewable resources that we have, definitely sustainable. The sunlight we are getting from the sun, the rainwater, they are sustainable. That could be available for our young generation. So if we grow technology, the uses of renewable resources is maximum. We are definitely conserving our resources, because if you are using energy from say water, that is hydroelectric energy, you are in another way conserving the coal, means the work which is used to do with the help of coal. There we are utilizing hydroelectric energy. You are conserving our resources. Again, in the diversity of life conserved on the earth, the damage to the natural environment minimized by using renewable resources. Children, if anybody asks you what is sustainable development, you have to answer like this. Besides meeting the present requirement, care must be given for future generations too. This way of resource utilization is called sustainable development. Now, the end of the chapter, that is principles of sustainable development. Let us see, children, about these principles of sustainable development. What are the basic principles of sustainable development? The basic principles of sustainable development is to improve the quality of life without, the quality of life with minimum interference or minimum damage to the existing resources that we have. Minimum depletion of the natural resources that exist and changing practices, a way of using resources, would be one of the important methods to use or to preserve the resources for future generation. And finally, enable people or communities to have their own environment and develop their own best use for natural resources or renewable resources. Now, children, some important terms which I am going to say here. You have to know these important terms which will be helpful for you. Resources means useful things. Survival means continue to live or exist. Potential resources, resources which are not yet fully utilized. Actual resources, resources which are surveyed and quantified for actual use. They are being used at present. Abiotic means non-living. Biotic means living, which have life. The first one, abiotic, it means, I told you earlier also, abiotic means non-living, which do not have life, like table, chair, houses, etc. And biotic means living, which has life, plants, trees, etc. Ubiquitous, that is found everywhere. Localized, that is found only in a certain places. So these are the points you have to know. Later on, if it require again, children, I will give you in the class. You have to memorize these important terms which will be helpful for you in your study. So Let us conclude here the first chapter and let us meet in the next class. Thank you, boys.